Hi, I'm the game OverThinker. Recently, I did battle with PyroThinker and CryoThinker, two ninjas who sought to destroy our very way of life. But that's not the ninja battle I'm here to talk to you about today. Today, I'm talking to you about an important battle that faces all of us, the battle to end ninja discrimination. You know, sometimes it seems like the only ninjas we see or hear about in the media are evil ones like PyroThinker and CryoThinker, but the truth is, the Ninja American community is a vital and diverse part of our national tapestry. Every day, good, hard-working ninjas help all of us as teachers, doctors, lawyers,
and politicians. Hi there, I'm newly elected United States Senator Jack Lieberson. You know, as a proud Ninja American, there's nothing that makes me madder than seeing rotten apples like PyroThinker and CryoThinker contributing to the stereotype of the evil rogue ninja and setting the national conversation back hundreds of years.
Did you know that Ninja Americans fought in key battles of the Revolutionary War and on both sides of the Civil War?
In addition, because our face-obscuring masks enable a wide cast of characters to be played by only one or two actors, ninjas provide a vital service in keeping the costs manageable on some of your favorite low-budget internet shows.
But today, largely because of sensationalized media coverage of events like my battle, Ninja Americans are faced with scorn and even prejudice. That's why I'm proud to partner with Senator Lieberson in the battle to end ninja discrimination.
It's up to all of us.
Our universe rests on the uneasy border between two worlds. The world of man, ordinary and stable, and the world of games, imaginative and chaotic. Where these worlds collide, one man is called to stand for reason, maintain the balance, and destroy ignorance. He is the Game OverThinker.
One of the genuinely good things about video games in the modern age is that they can do pretty much anything, even after they've been finished, which is pretty key given how expensive the hobby has become. For example, AAA games are now pretty much expected to come with an online multiplayer component in addition to a single-player campaign, and even if you're not into multiplayer, it's a given that a few weeks or months after it's released, you'll be able to buy DLC that alters or adds to the game to increase your replay value. New costumes, new maps, new levels, turn all the bad guys into zombies. It's pretty much only limited by the imagination of the designers. This is especially true and has been true for much longer in the PC gaming realm, where it's not just official DLC, but player-made mods and hacks on hand to give you a reason to keep playing. If games in the golden age were often the digital equivalent of action figures or doll lines, modern gaming is a Lego playset. Sure, you can build the castle, or you can just break it down and use the pieces however you want. And you know what? As much as the OverThinker quite simply does not give a flying fuck about online multiplayer, this stuff I think is actually pretty cool. I like the fact that I can play Arkham City as Batman Beyond or Classic Batman. All this modular liquidity has done a lot to make individual games more fun. But let me hit you with a radical prospect. Does this level of fluidity also play a part in making some games less artistically meaningful or emotionally impactful than they otherwise might have been? Can an added feature, even an optional one, make a game less good? Are there games that might have been better if extra features had been left out? And then a big one. As much as some gamers prize the ability to change the game itself to fit their own immediate preferences, do we sometimes benefit from a game restraining us? I think the answer might be yes. I realize there's a certain amount of heresy in saying this, particularly in this age where the PC gaming sensibility of mods and patches and expansions has spread out to engulf gaming as a whole. To some gamers, even the mere act of releasing a game without avatar customization is akin to releasing a car without a steering wheel, and the bigger notion that this or that functionality ought to be withheld from the player is like suggesting making a contemporary movie without sound. This is one of those areas where the reality versus perception impact tends to rear up and sucker punch gaming culture right in the face because it runs counter to big parts of our collective self-image. Since games can both create virtual worlds and allow players to inhabit and manipulate the flow of events within them, gamers often like to think of the medium as being more free, open, and unrestrained than many others. Now, in reality, gaming is exceptionally restrained by the need for electricity, the limits of computing power and storage space, the number of fingers on a human hand, etc. But it doesn't feel that way when we're playing, so we've all kind of absorbed the idea that gaming should be as malleable and open as we imagine the games themselves are. The trouble with this is that while there's certainly nothing wrong with the idea of video games games as modular playthings, I've certainly said so myself on many occasions, there are many folks who consider games to also be a form of art, myself included, and what's more, we posit that under the right circumstances, they may even be capable of attaining great art. Well, here's the problem with squaring those two visions of the medium. Nearly all the great works of art, be they paintings, sculptures, plays, books, films, songs, have at least one thing in common. They're finished. Completed. What you experience is, for the most part, the final be-all, end-all version of whatever the artist wanted you to experience. People are still trying to suss out the meaning of the Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile 6 centuries later because this one complete painting is all there is. There's no downloadable content whereby she has different expressions, no expansion packs to change up the setting, no way to mod the experience. It is forever and always exactly what it is. Woman seated against a bucolic landscape, what the hell is she thinking about? If you could do all those things, if there wasn't just the one singular iconic Mona Lisa, meaning the actual painting hanging in the Louvre, not the reprints of the merchandise, it simply would not be the singular iconic work that it is. I contend that part of the reason, aside from the simple effect of age on memory and regard, that games from the Golden Age are so often thought of, flaws and all, as classics, is that they, too, are singular and iconic works wholly in and of themselves. Sure, there are repaints and re-releases and mashups, but at the end of the day, the game is the game. This Genesis cartridge containing Ghosts and Goblins is Ghosts and Goblins for Genesis. The graphics are the graphics, the design is the design, the music is the music, the controls are the controls. It, due to the one-time only writability of digital storage media at the time, will always be the completed work of its creators. Games today, not so much. Oh, there are singular and iconic experiences, but they're much less permanent and thus much less suited to traditional artistic scrutiny. Flaws or bugs or even things that the designers might just decide they no longer like can be patched away or fixed in a subsequent release. That makes it kind of hard to look at an individual game and make any kind of objective aesthetic evaluation, especially now that it's more and more common for a game to be released unfinished or even broken with the security that they can always just patch it later. And before you respond to that, keep in mind that this isn't only a gaming problem. Ask yourself, was Star Wars more secure in its distinction as an important and vital piece of cinematic history before George Lucas started to rework them, or after? But malleability on the creative side is only part of the issue. This is also about the inclusion of official extra content. In many recent episodes, I've lamented the fact that despite present-day realistic military games being the hottest genre on the planet right now, there hasn't really been one major game that actually had something of substance to say about the multiple wars being fought while they were being made. With a brief caveat that what I'm about to say is by necessity something of a generalization, let me offer you a theory as to why the medium has failed at this task. Multiplayer. See, the dirty little open secret of the military first-person shooter genre is that the major titles are built almost exclusively not around their narrative-driven campaign, but around what used to be their secondary bonus content, the multiplayer mode. And while telling a story with depth, meaning, and complexity is difficult in an interactive narrative to begin with, doing so in a game mode where the players are basically just playing capture the flag with the digital props and sets is basically impossible. Remember the controversy over having the Taliban in the new Medal of Honor? While having real terrorists in the game would have raised eyebrows no matter what, the thing that got people all pissed off was that you were able to play as the Taliban in the multiplayer mode. While I disagree with those who were outraged at the game, it's hard to miss the point of what happened here. The mandate that every first-person shooter must feature online multiplayer created a scenario whereby the vision, experience, and image of the entire game was compromised. What's more, that sort of perception issue doesn't just hurt the individual games, but other related games as well. Remember all the controversy over 6 Days in Fallujah? The people who were angry about the game, for the most part, were objecting to the idea of a game based on a real military operation because they felt it would trivialize the deaths of the real-life participants. Now, I disagree with that in principle, and definitely in regards to what was by all accounts shaping up to be a really solid, respectful treatment of the subject matter. But you know what? I totally understand how otherwise well-meaning people who aren't necessarily plugged into day-to-day gaming culture might have assumed that the game would be a big, disrespectful, shoot-'em-up virtual paintball version of the story. Everybody knows that realistic military shooters are the king genre right now, and everybody also knows that the reason they're so popular is precisely because of their big, disrespectful, shoot-'em-up virtual paintball modes. What were people supposed to think? I'll tell you this, if I'd lost a child or a parent or a friend in Fallujah and had a limited frame of reference for the gaming medium that led me to logically conclude that their death was going to be turned into a fucking deathmatch map for 12-year-olds to shout gay slurs at one another in, I'd be pissed off too. Perception matters, folks, and fairly or not, 6 Days in Fallujah died for Call of Duty's sins. When the first Bioshock came out, a lot of people were annoyed, even back then, that it was a shooter without multiplayer. Well, you know what? I think the lack of multiplayer is part of what made it a great game. See, Bioshock worked really hard creating an intelligent narrative with fleshed-out world populated by complex, richly drawn characters. You know what would have ruined all that? Being able to switch over and reduce all that depth and complexity to a bucket of toy guns and costumes to play fucking paintball with. I'm sorry, but I really feel like it would have lessened guys like Sander Cohen and Andrew Ryan to see their skins or costumes running around in a multiplayer arena. Bioshock 2, on the other hand, did put in a multiplayer mode. Which one was better? Which one stands the test of time and feels like a solid, singular, iconic artistic work? Yeah, exactly. It's almost as though the games industry and gamer culture has collectively opted to ignore one of the basic fundamental laws of life itself. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. This also extends into one of the other current banes of my gaming existence, the rise to prominence of the blank protagonist. Yes, sometimes it's a cute narrative trick to leave the creation of the main character totally in the player's hands, but most of the time it isn't. By and large, most memorable works of storytelling have a strong main character at their center, and a homunculus waiting for the character creation engine to decide his or her entire being is generally the exact opposite of that. And it's not like this is hard to prove either. People remember Tom Sawyer, Superman, King Arthur, Simba, Garfield, Holden Caulfield, Tarzan, Luke Skywalker, Frodo, Sherlock Holmes, Hercules, Mike Hammer, Forrest Gump, and so on and so on. They're permanently stuck in the collective cultural psyche. Nobody remembers the hero of even the best-written choose-your-own-adventure book. Just saying. Even monodimensional video game characters like Mario or Mega Man have a certain amount of staying power because their iconic look gives us a certain amount of substance to hang on to. The argument against this, of course, is that games being games, the ability of the player to remake or improvise the experience has a certain amount of importance. While this is true, rules and boundaries are an essential component of any game. Football is football because you have to play it with a football on a specific kind of field, with specific movements allowed at specific times. This is why a big fight scene in a movie is more interesting than a big fight in real life, because in a movie there's rules and structure and edits designed to make it all aesthetically engaging, while a brawl in reality is just a big clusterfuck. Why do boxers wear gloves? Because a real fist fight is boring and over way too fast. If we wish to make, have, and play games that are as meaningful, lasting, and important as the great works of other artistic mediums, restraint, as in not putting that extra bell or whistle on a game just to theoretically entice one more person to buy it, is a lesson we need to both relearn and appreciate. Remember, the best stories are often as much about what doesn't happen or can't happen than what does happen.
Well, thanks again for recording the PSA, Overthinker. It really helps.
Hey, no problem, Senator. Those two bastards did enough damage without letting them smear the entire Ninja American community.
Huh. Well, all the same, it's good to finally make your acquaintance. After all, you and I are kind of in the same business.
We are?
Of course, son. We're both working to protect the world from the darker side of video games. See you around, friend.
That was ominous.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Should we, investigate whatever the hell he was talking about?
We could do that. Or we could wait until it becomes a conveniently compelling story point.
We could do that.
Besides, you and I have someplace to be. Life was a game to you, and you played it by your own rules. You were a mystery to most of us, and yet an inspiration to us all. You gave us freedom. You gave us power. You gave us wings. You gave us wheels. Thank you, Sharkade, for giving us a dream that will never die. Rest now, my old friend. You have been avenged.
Sir? Not to impede the solemnity of this moment, but what's with the videotape?
Videotape? What videotape?